Welcome to a brief presentation on how to set up a paper in Microsoft Word according to MLA 8th edition instructions. MLA papers need to be formatted correctly in 8 different areas: margins, font, line spacing, header, heading, title, body paragraphs, and the works cited page. The margins for the paper need to be set to 1 inch all the way around. In order to adjust your margins, you'll need to start in the Layout menu in Word. Then you can choose the drop-down Margins icon and pick the one that has 1 inch all the way around. The font size specified for MLA papers is 12 point and should remain that size throughout the paper. The style needs to be consistent throughout the paper as well. You might choose Times New Roman, Calibri, Arial, or something similar, as long as it's a font that doesn't draw attention to itself and is clearly readable. You do not want to use something fancy, funny, or creepy. To specify the font size, you'll want to go to the Home tab on your menu, and then you can use the drop-down list for the style of font. Right now it's on Calibri. We could choose Times New Roman or down here Arial. We'll leave it on Calibri, and it's set right now for 11. We need to change that to 12. In terms of line spacing, MLA guidance calls for exact double spacing from top to bottom of the paper. Unfortunately, Microsoft Word defaults aren't set this way, and often this causes students to make mistakes in their formatting, so you'll want to pay special attention to the instructions on how to avoid Word slipping in extra spacing between your paragraphs. To set up for double spacing, you'll want to be sure that you're under the Home menu, and then choose the Paragraph drop-down box. You'll go down to the section that says Spacing, and first you'll choose Double Spacing. The other thing that you must pay attention to is right here. In this section, Word is telling you that it's going to slip in an extra line of 8-point font between every paragraph. You don't want that, so you need to set this down to 0. You want to make sure that before and after spacing is set at 0, your line spacing is on double spacing, and keep that throughout the paper. Next, you'll want to set up your header, which shows your last name and the page number in the top right-hand corner of every page of the paper. To set up the header, you'll want to start by switching to the Insert menu. In this menu, go over to the Page Number function. Click that drop-down box. You're going to want a page number at the top of the page, and go to this one that puts the number in the top right-hand corner. So you click that, and it's opened up the header area on the document. Now you want to stick your cursor right in front of that page number and type your last name. I'm going to use the name Jones, and then add 1 space before the page number. Close. With all of that done, it's time to finally start typing into the paper, and we'll do that first by setting up the heading, which is different than the header. The heading appears only at the top of the first page, and it lists the student's name, the teacher's name, the name of the class, and the date. To add the heading, we're going to start in the top left-hand corner. Put your cursor there and start with the student's name. So we're going to use Jennifer Jones. Then the teacher's name. Then the class. We'll use English, language, and composition. And then we need to get in the date. The date should be in the order of day, month, and then year. So today's date is 20 July 2017. Now, let's take note of a couple of issues that we're having here on this document. One is that I got an extra space in there, so we want to be sure we get rid of that. And then note that somehow Word has reverted back to that 11-point font. So what I need to do is I need to highlight everything I possibly can in my paper so that when I hit enter, it'll be 12 point. All right. Now we're on to setting up the title. The title in an MLA paper is simply centered. It has no additional spacing before or after. It should not be bolded, not underlined, not italicized, not written in all caps, and not set off in quotation marks. To set up your title, you want to start at the end of your heading, hit enter one time, and then you'll go up here to this little icon that centers your text on the page. Now what we type will be centered. The title of our sample essay is going to be The Flair of 5. Kind of a corny title for an essay on a 5-paragraph paper. Now you're ready to start the body of the paper. Each body paragraph needs to be indented in the first line by 1/2 inch. You want to do this using the Tab key rather than clicking the space bar several times and hoping that you hit about 1/2 inch. The other thing that you'll need to keep in mind is maintaining that double spacing throughout your paragraphs and keeping the font size and style consistent. All right, to get set with typing into the body of the paper, we are going to start right where we left off at the end of the last slide, at the end of our title. I'm going to hit enter one time because that title should be exactly double spaced just like everything else. The problem we have here is that we're sitting in the center of the page and we want our body paragraphs justified on the left margin. So we need to come up here to these quick icons in the paragraph menu to the one that will set our cursor to align on the left side. Before we begin typing, we know that the first line needs to be indented, so I'm going to hit the Tab key one time, and that will take me in 1/2 inch to start the first line. Then I can begin typing. And so far, so good. All right, now what I want to do for the sake of convenience is paste in some paragraphs so that you can take a look at that, and we may get to see Word behaving badly and reformatting on us. So I'm going to get rid of what I have here. Oops. Go back, and I already have the paragraph content copied, so I'm going to paste it in here. Okay, so I'm just going to use Control V to paste. All right, so what we see here, and this can often happen if you're copying, pasting, sometimes for no explicable reason that I can ever ascertain, you'll have Word change the style of the font. What we've got here is a change in style. We're in Calibri, and then it has switched to Times New Roman. That's what I pasted in. So that needs to be changed because we need it to be a consistent style from top to bottom. So I'm going to highlight all of that I pasted in, and it's also put it into 11. So I want to go back to Calibri, and I want to set the size back to 12. So now we're all set with that. Except that I'm noticing one more thing that may have happened here, and this is what you need to be watching out for and keeping track of. We've got double spacing here, but it looks like a little bit bigger space between these two paragraphs here. And so I'm suspicious that maybe Word has gone back to adding extra spacing between the paragraphs. So we're going to highlight all of that, go into the paragraph menu, and sure enough, it's slipping in an 8-point spaced line in between the paragraphs. So I'm going to cancel for just a moment because I want to get down here to where you can see this gap and watch what happens. So when I go back into that paragraph menu and I close this 8-point gap, watch over here what happens. Notice how that drew together to true double spacing rather than an extra space in there. Okay, so unclick all that highlighting. The good news is that if I continue, once I've got the body of the paper established, generally things remain the same with the font and all of that. It's whenever you're copying something in or when you do something new in the paragraphs that you might need to take some time to double check all of that. And you certainly want to double check all of your formatting before you turn your paper into your teacher. Just scroll through, Look at the spacing, check that the fonts all match. Often something will be a little out of sync if you've done any copying and pasting and you need to correct that. Lastly, I want to talk to you about how to format the works cited page in an MLA paper. I'm not going to get into in this video what should be in each works cited entry and how you arrange those and how you generate your works cited, but this is the list of sources that you use in the writing of your paper. What I want to stick to right now is just how do we get that page formatted correctly. So we'll start with the first part that needs to happen, and that is at the end of the typing of your paper, you're going to use a page break because the works cited page needs to be on its own page. And if you hit the enter key several times until you get to the top of the next page, that's all fine and good until you change one thing in your paper, and then it's no longer sitting correctly at the top of its page. That's why you need to use a page break. The easiest way to do that, in my opinion, is to hit Control Enter. That's a shortcut. You hit those two keys together, and that's a shortcut for creating a page break. You could also go into the Insert menu and insert a page break that way. The next thing that's special about the works cited page is that it has its own title, and it's not ever a creative title. The title is Works Cited, and it has the same rules as the title of your paper. It is not bolded, it's not underlined, it's not italicized, it's not highlighted in any way or written in all caps. It's just the same font as the rest of the paper, and it's exactly double spaced, and it should be exactly on the top line of its page because you've used a crisp Control Enter page break. So let's take a look at what it requires to get a works cited page set up. We're starting here at the top of the paper that we've been playing with, and the works cited sample page that I'm going to use here doesn't actually go with this paper, so don't get hung up on that. I just needed one with several entries so that we could show the formatting. So what I need to do is I get to the end of the typing of the paper, so let's pretend that this is the end of our paper. And what you do not want to do is start hitting the Enter key to get to the top of the next page. That's a big no-no. What you want to do is use the page break, and I'm hitting the Control and the Enter key at the same time, and notice how that started a brand new page for me, and my cursor's right at the top of that page. What I need to do for a works cited page is put that title Works Cited at the top. Nothing special or exciting. Go down to the next line, and of course I'm going to want to get back on the left margin. I have a list of works cited entries ready to paste in here, so I'm going to do that. And of course they turn out to be in Times New Roman font, so we're going to let's go ahead and get that changed right now so there's no confusion with that. We're going to get those into Calibri. Okay, probably looking at this you might notice that we've got that same problem cropping up. Notice how these spaces are bigger than they're supposed to be between these entries. All right, so we're going to go in here. Sure enough, the stubborn program is slipping them in there again. So set that back down to 0. And now notice that it's all, we've got everything highlighted in our works cited. It's all double spaced exactly. So the next thing that we need to do, we have several entries here, but they're all just sitting right on the margin. What we need to do is go into the paragraph menu, and in order to get that backwards paragraph formatting that we use for this situation, you go to this special section of the paragraph menu, and under special you choose hanging. Okay, when you choose hanging and you click OK, what that did is that backwards paragraph formatting for us. So the first line is on the margin, on that 1-inch margin. The next lines of the entry, here we've got 2 more lines on this entry, are indented by 1/2 inch, and that's exactly what we want. So this is a correctly formatted works cited page. It doesn't have any extra spacing between the entries. It's double spaced perfectly from top to bottom. We can scan down this list on the left and see the names of those authors, and that would help us find what we're looking for. So that's exactly what you want on the Works Cited page. All right, once you're through the Works Cited page, that's all there is to setting up a paper in MLA format.